Okay, cool. All right, welcome to the March member mentoring session. We're going to get this started with checking in with ourselves. And this is something that you can do weekly, daily, even just to see how you're doing. And that's what we do for our mentoring session is we check in with ourselves and see how we're doing. To start this off, we're all going to introduce ourselves. So I'll go first and then we'll go in, I'll just call out your name, introduce yourself really quickly, and then we'll go into this little practice and then get your conversations and questions started. So I'm Drea and co-founder of In Creative Company. And today I am looking forward to connect with all of you to see how you're doing and hear about what you're struggling with and provide resources. We are master super connectors. So our network is vast, happy to share that resource with you. So that is what I'm bringing to the table today. And then we'll go into Isabel. Isabel, introduce yourself.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Isabel. This is my first ever meeting here, so it's cool to see everyone's faces. I'm a Squarespace designer, so I run a studio called Studio Owned, and I do custom Squarespace design as well as sell templates for creative freelancers. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you. Chadvi, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, okay, so hi everyone. I'm Chadvi. I'm Mauritian, so that's a tiny island next to Madagascar in South Africa. And I've also lived in London, and then I've moved to Canada as well, so I've moved around a lot. I am a freelance copywriter. I focus on SEO copywriting and content strategy. So I usually work with small businesses. I like to work with female-owned businesses, but I work with a lot of other small and medium businesses as well, especially helping them to write SEO copy. End up working with a lot of web designers, Isabel. So that seems to be a thing, that's integrated when you do SEO copy. You end up working with a lot of web designers and help them build SEO blogs to get organic traffic as opposed to social media, which tends to be, the go-to. So I come in kind of like from the dark space being like, oh, have you heard about SEO and organic? That's kind of what I help entrepreneurs with. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Loving hearing from you. And I had no idea that's where you're from. I love finding out those little inside things. Thank you for sharing. Yelle, you're next.
Hey. I am the co-founder of In Creative Co. And my role on projects, I hope you don't hear my tea kettle, I need to grab it. My role on projects is to be the creative director and project manager. And so when a project comes to me, I am able to hand select people for the project rather than writing it in like a Slack channel. I feel like I know you all so well based off of your applications and then people who come to the events and chat on Slack. I really understand, or like maybe you're really active sharing on social. I feel like I can get a grasp for what you do. And then just managing the community and business development, managing a company for 50 people. There was an opportunity that Nancy put in for like a day job of $1,500 max a day for up to 12 weeks. And I was like, wow, that sounds fantastic. 40-hour days. That works for a freelancer, I think, but I think my job's a little different than a freelancer where I'm running this community. I just can't figure out how I would ever do something like that. So I would say it's like more entrepreneur than freelancer, but like to my clients, I'm a freelancer, so it's a mix.
Thanks for sharing. Catherine, thanks for attending. Love to hear from you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Miles. I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm in my second year of entrepreneurship. I'm the founder of Blended Experience, a mix between connection and creative expression. And I'm really working on taking all of my passions and skills and offering them as like a cohesive thing, because I'm a creative strategist. So I work with clients to help enhance their digital presence. So I do a lot of social media management, graphic design, copy editing. But I also am a dance instructor. I teach beginning ballet, and next week I'm teaching my first ever tap class. So I'm really excited to start doing that. And I also teach an online dance fitness class on Wednesdays. So it'll be this afternoon, or actually this evening, if most of you guys are on the East Coast, it'll be 7:30 Eastern. So if you guys want to come bust a move, we'll be doing it today. Yelle will be there, so shout out. Woo. And then I also started teaching astrology classes in the fall, and I'll actually be having my third public astrology event on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm really excited because we're finishing out the zodiac cycle now, and we'll be starting an entirely new zodiac cycle at the spring equinox on Sunday. So I'm really excited to offer my membership, where we'll be going from the beginning of the zodiac all the way to the end and covering all 12 signs and the energies that, have to do with all of us. And finally, I'm co-founding a nonprofit, the Oklahoma Center for Racial Equity and Justice, with my co-founder, Derek Brown. And we've been working on this project for a year, and we're still working on the foundation and getting it off the ground. We're in the process of building a board of directors. We finally finished our first draft of the bylaws. So we're working on board acquisition so that we can file for 501c3 status, learn about grant writing, get some funding, and then really start introducing that into the world. So definitely have my hands full, and happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Love the update. Ozzy, would love to hear from you. Tell everyone about what you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Ozzy. My personal pronouns are they, she. I'm a core leader at In Creative Company. That basically means joining the rest of core leaders and co-founders in beautiful meetings, being a project manager, and trying to guide people as much as possible on Slack to whatever it is they're looking for. And I own a digital creative agency. We focus on, it's called O Design Space. We create inclusive web spaces, and we focus on web accessibility. And I'm also Catherine's student in her Zodiac classes. I'm sorry I have been sort of MIA during the last few classes, but it's a beautiful workshop. You should all consider it if you're interested in astrology. And I was recently in Argentina, and I saw a lot of tango. I think you would love tango. And I also have a 9-to-5. I work for a network of charter schools here in New York. I used to be a senior graphic designer, but I got promoted to associate creative director on Monday. And that's basically me.
Yay, congratulations. That's so exciting. Thank you for sharing. Audrey, would love to hear from you. Welcome.
Hey there. I'm Audrey, and I'm a creative photographer in Brooklyn. Business has definitely been picking back up here in my area since everyone's coming back and they need new photos, and maybe they haven't been really involved in their business for the last year and a half. So, currently I am creating a business plan. I'm applying for the grant that I think Yelle posted about. I'm actually trying to submit my application right now. So it's $2,500 to help really move your business forward for advertising and stuff. So I'm trying to work on that. I've been pitching a lot more to brands to try and do collaborations and stuff. But overall, things are going, pretty well for me. just here to get everyone else's input, because it's always nice to hear other people's, view of things in terms of business.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you all for the update. That was so lovely to hear what you've been working on. So in particular, when you feel that there is like any suffering, you can ask yourself a few questions. I ask myself these questions throughout the workday or work week. So we can have some time to jot down like what is happening now. How does this align with my intention? How can I respond from my deepest intention? And how may this moment, whatever it brings, serve to support my intention? So these are things that I ask myself to, in essence, kind of like mentor myself throughout the day, because I think it's important to also be your own mentor and your own best friend and check in with yourself. And then during this time, we'll hear what everyone has to say, bring forth these questions, and we can understand how to keep us in alignment and work from intention. So really excited to hear what you have to say. I'm just going to take a minute to have you all think about this, and I'll bring forth a question so that we can all speak equally. So it'll be about 2 minutes on the clock, and we'll get back into it. Awesome. Thanks so much for that. So advantages of checking in. This is to allow ourselves to course check. We need to know what is happening in the moment and be present for our experience in a kind and receptive way. This allows us to do that for ourselves. We also understand that when intense feelings or challenging situations arise, we are gentle with ourselves and name the feelings with some sense of allowing. And before asking yourself, how could I respond from my deepest intention? So this is all about being kind with ourselves and acknowledging where we are and then moving forward from that. And remember, when your presence needs to grow, think In Creative Co. I'm really excited that you're all here today. That is what we're going to be working on. So would love to hear how that practice went for you. And you can just go, oh, how is it new? Oh, nice tagline. Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one. I love it.
Oh, nice.
one.
So would love to hear what you all had to say about this. Is there something that you'd like to speak about in particular, or would like to give everyone a chance to speak? So limit it to one question and we'll try to tackle it as quick as possible.
I can jump in. So I wrote about just building my business. When I first started, it was like freelancer, and I'm like, how can I match my skills to fit your needs? Okay, great. Here's an invoice, send me the money. Also, like, awesome, all of that. And now I'm like, expanding in all these different ways. And I'm really looking to just streamline and systemize all of my processes so that I'm more just like smooth sailing and not just like feeling like I'm jumping all around doing all of these things. So I actually went to a SCORE business workshop over the weekend, and that was really beneficial. They set us up with resources and mentors for free. So I'm jumping on that. And they gave us this packet of all the slides and stuff, and it was very business oriented, which I appreciate because I went to school for strategic communications, and I think I operate from a very creative place, but in terms of like all of the business stuff, logistics, that's just all still on the back burner. And I'm just like, I need to get all of that stuff together. And then to answer like how I'm gonna respond for my deepest intention is just stay consistent and introduce new strategies while eliminating bad habits and patterns with self-compassion. And I'm doing that now because we're here and we showed up.
Thank you. I love that. You've made so much progress. When you're picking people that are on the board, I remember with TEDx Asbury Park, it was, people get really excited about the mission and working with that kind of a name. I think just having accountability when you're finding people to work with your nonprofit, having them sign a contract that is for a certain amount of time with a review period so that there's accountability there, because only having it spoken like, oh, okay, we're going to have you jump in and help us with this or that. If it's very loose, they're going to act loose about the responsibilities. So have in place, even if it's for volunteers to help with the nonprofit, still have it in writing, have accountability, have a usual review period, etc. Have like a start date and an end date, just like any internship, etc. We always did really well with having our interns as volunteers because they had a very specific start date and end date for their semester, and they needed it to get credit for their degree. So they were accountable, like the best accountability, and just setting that up with everyone. So people that come in and help your nonprofit, they show up, right? Because what's the worst thing with a nonprofit is saying people will do things and them flaking out, and there really are no repercussions because it was volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need that because we did have a team member drop and we're like, great, we were counting on this work and now we have to do it ourselves or find someone else who can do it. So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else setting intentions or need to like go through the exercise together? Definitely an open, safe space to like ask questions or get feedback.
I have a follow-up question since we've been talking about contracts, and I think that was basically the main reason I was here anyway, because I had a question about contracts to begin with. So like I wanted to know, like especially the terms, how do you write them in a way that they're convincing enough, but they don't, make the client panic and just like don't want to sign it and don't want to be part of this process anymore? Because I see a lot of freelancers, and I'm one of those guilty ones who doesn't even have a contract. Like I just do it kind of like an email, and it's like, okay, so this is like the terms, and like we're gonna do it this way by an email, but not really have like proper signatures and everything done really, formally. So I'm just playing with my dog at the moment. I'm pet sitting at the moment. And she's like very feisty. But so like, how do I start to introduce that? First of all, with existing clients, because they might be a little bit like, wait, where's this coming from? And then second of all, how to have that streamlined in the process so that it just becomes, normal for me.
You need a contract. Don't burn yourself. It hurts. I learned it the hard way, and I think many do, in that what having a contract does, I think the most, I've never had to like use, I've had to like use a contract and be like, hey, read this. but it sets it up from the beginning so that you're both on the same page, and it has to continue that way. And they're not allowed to creep on that scope and like just work up all your hours. It really like, it's almost more of a mindset thing for them than you. It's like saying, here's what I want. Here's my boundary. Don't cross it because it's on here. And it's as easy as setting up a Word doc in the beginning and getting them to sign that. That's like the very easiest way to go about it. I think like the next level of that is on Wethos, who, can I announce to all of you? It's happening in an hour and a half, so don't tell anyone, but I won a $10,000 grant that's going towards In Creative Companies marketing. Yeah, all it took was like a half hour to a 1 hour application, and here I am $10,000 later. Hell yeah. But back on track. So like the ways that I have had to use the contract too is like when someone does something that's beyond it, I'm like, can you please refer? And I'll like screenshot part of it and I'll be like, let's just make sure we're on track here. This is what it says. We've gone over this. And then you're able to like send an updated contract, or it just really holds you accountable. The way that I started to write our first contracts, I wrote all 12 of In Creative Companies contracts in the very beginning. I didn't realize that a lawyer doesn't just like make them, they need to start with something. So I had to like research the disparate world of contracts, and I didn't like buy any templates. I just found what was out there. Like, I think I can suggest this to you, but I can't legally tell you that I'm suggesting this to you, but like, you've been on our projects, take a look at our contracts, and like you can borrow from there to start.
Awesome.
And just make sure that it like makes sense for you, for what you're offering, to get your terms in there.
Right.
I think I was always worried that when writing a contract, it had to be this incredibly legal verbiage and stuff. And then you think, if they break the contract, what can you even really do? Like, is it even worth spending the money to like get them to do what you wanted? So I think I've always put it in that aspect in my mind, but hearing what you all have to say, it's more of just, like you said, the guideline. Like you go, this is what I'm going to do, and you can't make me do any more. But like, what if they break it and they don't do their portion of it? Like, what is that? What is the point of having them sign it?
So they will, it can be written into the contract that they pay for arbitration. And so they end up paying for any legalities to pursue it. So that's written in there that they end up paying for the lawyer to really bring it to court, etc. So that's something that you can opt in having in there. And then if there's someone that doesn't want to sign a contract, that's just a huge red flag. You know, if someone doesn't want to sign it, then, you know, that's, I think, just a deal breaker completely. Definitely still work with an attorney so that they can work in things that are specific to your business, especially because you get a lot of international transfers for money. Have that in there, specifying like how you like to get paid, exactly what you want to get.
My problem a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and a lawyer can work with you on protecting you in all of those circumstances. So that could be to your benefit. Ozzy, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on Yelle's answer to Chat B on contracts possibly deterring clients from joining on a project, which is I think a real fear we all have when we're like setting our foot down on a contract and saying, this is the amount of money you'll pay if you're delayed or such and such. One thing I learned recently is that instead of saying things like the contract will be voided if this doesn't happen by this time, or you'll have to pay this much if you want another revision, just include those already as part of your contract and charge for them in advance. So for example, I had a clause in my contracts that said work can begin after the first 50 down payment and after you submit these materials. So the submission of the materials is the first deadline. And during the discovery call, I asked them, like, when do you think you can have this ready? How much time you will need? So in the contract itself, that's kind of like baked in, that the first deliverable will happen after the contract is signed. My old ways, the way I used to do it, is I didn't send them a contract until they send me the materials. And that meant that they procrastinated forever and the project never started because they kept saying like, oh yes, I have to do this, but they never did. So if you get them to sign a contract and include that in your contract, I think it's getting into that mindset of you're the one coaching your clients on how to do things, not waiting for them to deliver in order for you to start working.
Thank you.
Yeah, so much goodness there. One more thing is that, two more things. One, you look so much more professional to your clients when you do have a contract too. It just makes you look better. And the second thing is you asked about the existing clients and what to do with ones. You can, if you have the confidence, you can definitely ask them to sign it. You're like, hey, I've leveled up my business. I put together a contract for all my new clients. I was wondering if it's okay if we just sign what we're already doing right now moving forward. That's an option, or you could just instill it with any new clients. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to have to jump off. I actually have a client call. So it was nice talking to you all. I'll see you next time.
It was
Bye.
so good seeing you here. Bye.
Bye.
Audrey and Isabel, if you have any questions, the time goes till 1:45, so happy to have you jump in and troubleshoot anything with you. I also have some things planned if you'd like to just like sit back and listen, but wanted to give you that space. And then Ozzy, of course, you too.
I have a question just about how to be like a better host of an event. I already mentioned this to Drea at the start, but I just recently started my own community and it's my first time ever hosting like events at all. So I'm just trying to learn like how to give space to people to respond, but also when to jump in and when to take the lead and when to kind of let other members, brainstorm. So I guess I'm just looking for like ways of how to be a better host, I guess.
I think you're in the right spot for it. Drea's a great host. She's over here for me. But I think that the way to do that is really to just keep going to other people's meetings and being inspired by them. I think that that's like one major way. Another way, like I found me and Drea became better hosts is that with Catherine, we read The Listening Path by Julia Cameron. I know you like reading. We actually did it as a book club. We were just talking about that in your meeting.
Yeah.
I don't read, but like we did this together because it was like a workshop book. It was just like the Artist's Way where you had exercises between each time. I know Catherine's been dying to do it again. It really helped because each chapter taught you how to listen in a different way to a different thing. And it was not only listening to people, it was listening to the sounds around you. It was listening to yourself. It was listening beyond the veil to someone who passed and talking to them. It was like all these different ways of staying in tuned. And I think as a host, it's a lot of, it's like a pace thing where you need to listen and figure out where to interject yourself. And there's definitely hosts out there who do take over and talk too much and don't allow other people. And there's a balance there. And then there's also like, if you do sit back, like I have to say our last member mentoring session got a little crazy because we focused on one person's question for like most of the time. And I just like felt bad that like no one else was getting their questions answered. And I think it was because it was our first one and we just like hadn't thought about those things, and it happens. Yeah. Catherine?
I've been hosting my event since the fall, and that was just something that kind of just happened. So for me, my first piece of advice is just have fun with it. Like, you know, the purpose of the event, you have a feel for who's joined your community and how to connect with them and kind of just like flow. Some things that have helped me for event prep is like, before I start my event, I go through it in my head and I'm like, all right, what things are we going to touch on? Because I do 2 types of events. For my public events, I have a slide. So I just kind of like run through the slides. I don't even have a script. I just kind of riff it. But that's something that's helpful, that keeps me on track for the flow. And then definitely like checking in, like if you're like presenting information, checking in, like, am I making sense for anybody? Like, do you guys have questions, anything like that? So just kind of checking the temperature as you go through it. But if it's more of a free form event, what I like to do before the event is just do like a bullet list for myself. Like, these are the topics that we're going to cover. Like, here's the intro, here's the information, here's a time to stop for questions. Like, I make those notes for myself, so at least I have like a blueprint or an outline for myself to like go through that flow. And then also just like also leaving room for spontaneity too, because, you know, if it's a larger event or something, someone might come in and ask a question and then you get taken off on this other journey through it. And that's kind of the magic of having live events. So having fun with it and just trusting your flow, and then having that blueprint or outline to like bring it back to, so that you're able to you know, cover everything that you want to in the time that you're hosting the event. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Just having kind of like an agenda at the very least, even if it's a less structured event.
One thing I love about some events I have participated on is a way to make them more inclusive is, of course, to never make assumptions. Don't assume the audience knows everything. Just explain everything to them, even if it's your 5th event. Just go over it one more time. This doesn't work for all events. It depends on your event, but starting an event with an agenda and letting people know these are the different sections of the event we're going to be moving through, it really helps people map the meeting in their head and not encounter any unexpected things. If you say we'll have a Q&A meeting, we'll have a Q&A moment at the end, people prepare for it and they start thinking about their questions. In the same way, if you expect participation from them at some point, they'll prepare for it. And just letting them know, like, I'll share the presentation after the event, so don't worry about screenshots or all of that. Just prepare them so that they can fully utilize their time in the best way. And if after or before the agenda, you set the rules for the room. For example, if you expect everyone to share their video, just say that in that slide. Or if you expect everyone to share their pronouns, just say that in that slide. Just make sure that you set those rules for the rest of the people in the event so that everyone is on the same page. And I'll share a link on how to make events accessible if you're using Zoom.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ozzy. That was so in-depth and very insightful. I really appreciate that. It is super important to have that inclusive mindset, and it's definitely practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And so everyone starts somewhere. So just keep practicing at it and you'll find your own groove. And I think that that's a lot of it. It's just practicing and always trying to like do something a little bit better. So you don't have to be 100%, but you're just trying like 2% better every single time and getting back out there and keep trying, you'll do great. Welcome, Cassandra. So happy you're here. Thank you for popping in. Right now, we're just answering questions and giving feedback. Did you come here with anything in mind to ask?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to kind of have an opportunity to see how these sessions go. I ran into some puppy problems, of course, but she's taken care of now and has a sitter watching over her. So I was hoping if there was time to ask at least one question. And I think like the biggest thing for me right now is I'm getting set up with officially In Creative Co. To start my business and create a brand and go through all the stepping stones of developing a business for yourself and a brand for yourself. Having that support system is so great, and I'm happy that I brought it here. But one thing I was kind of curious if anyone had experience in is I'm trying to navigate through, I guess, lessons learned. If you could go back in time, what you would have done differently in getting yourself established, because a lot of the payments that I've done in the last year and a half have all been, self-funded, and I want to take the step to create an LLC. I don't have a business name in mind at this point, and I'm not entirely sure if I should register an LLC under my name, seek out that legal advice, and then be able to write off these expenses for software, for the MacBook I'm on, all these things that I've, invested in, but for the purpose of my brand, business, etc. So if anyone has any input on some of those initial pain points of getting started that they wish they would have known before finding out the hard way and trial and error, that would be awesome.
I will say that I'm in the process of doing my second LLC because the first one was in Texas. But just remember that the name of the LLC does not have to be the name that you go by with your company. So my LLC is actually, it's called 4 Dots 1 Square, but my photography is Audrey Art. You can change the name of, like the name that you go by. There's a term for it. You can change it whenever you want. But your LLC just has, you just need to have.
DBA is doing business as.
Yeah. So don't stress too much about that. It could literally be anything that you wanted. It could be just your name. And then, as long as you have an address, I don't know if you move a lot, like I did a PO box instead, but just keep that in mind when you're thinking of a name.
Although
Thank you.
in New York and New Jersey, I think it is, to register an LLC, you can't have a PO box. It has to be an actual USPS address. So like you can do it at a FedEx, at a UPS place.
Yeah, the legal advice I got so far was that New York is one of the hardest states to get registered in. And so because my parents are still in California, I'm just thinking they're not going anywhere. I might use that physical address. But thank you, Audrey. That is super helpful because it's been one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I'm like struggling to overcome, is knowing if I pick a name and I register an LLC in that name, am I stuck? And I would much rather have, Cassandra Jones, LLC, and then build different things under that, or leveraging that. But the legal side to it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And as we're working on developing some of the brand strategy and the business name and vision, I know that's going to take time, but I don't want to continue to just rack up expense after expense if there's also a grace period of how far you can go back and account for those things, like working with a financial advisor. So
10 right now. I didn't start an LLC till 6 months down the line in my business, and you can still write off your expenses as business
before.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
You just do it as using your social security number. You don't need the EIN.
I would ask your advisor if it makes sense for you to be an LLC owner, first of all, because in so many cases, we see those checklists of these are the steps to have a business. You can be a sole proprietor and be in business. If that makes a lot more sense for you in a financial way, then the person who's giving you advice financially will be able to determine that. They will take a look at how much money you're making and all of that. I'm sure Yelle Drea can recommend someone if you want to have a conversation with someone about that. But yeah, just don't worry too much about those checklists that say you're not a business until you do this, this, and this, and this. um, and also, I don't think it's more difficult to register in New York. It's just more expensive because you need to publish publicly on a gazette, and that's more expensive. It's a few more $100 depending on the state you do it. So it's up to you if you want to spend a few more dollars or not, or a few more $100 or not. Um, but yeah, that's basically what I have to say about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the next step probably should be the legal and financial advice, what steps to take and where to register, how to register if it's necessary, and then the expenses. I'm in like a taxes mindset right now and going to do that later today, so it kind of came up for me. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. This was such a great session. I really appreciate all of you coming here and bringing your questions. Before we conclude, just want to give you a friendly reminder, Thursday, March 24th, come to the Creative Entrepreneurs panel. You'll see Catherine, who's here with us today. Also, Jillian and William will be on the panel as well. We're going to have a really great roundtable conversation, and you're welcome to join and have a good time with us. So that's Thursday, March 24th, 5 p.m. Eastern. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Feel free to reach out, have a one-to-one with me, or you can ask more questions in Slack. We are always available, but this FaceTime was so lovely, and I appreciate all of you for attending. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.